Hey folks, this is Ryan from ORS Snowshoes Direct here in Vermont, and we're gonna go through our basic beginner category of snowshoes. So basic beginner, you've never snowshoed before, I guess that would mean you're a beginner snowshoer, but snowshoeing is one of those things where I would say anyone who hasn't ever snowshoed is at least an intermediate. I mean, it's essentially walking. So really these are for people who have never done it or are gonna do it occasionally and don't want to spend a lot of money. So these are snowshoes really more for beginning terrain, I guess you could say, mellow terrain, flat rolling terrain, and packed snow. The reason being is that the traction elements of these shoes isn't very aggressive, so steep hills you're going to slip a little bit, but you know, for your leisurely tromp through a meadow or on your park trails, that sort of thing, these are really good options, and they're priced nice. So again, you're already an intermediate snowshoer, so let's take a look at some of these snowshoes. We'll start off with the Atlas 8 series. This is the 830 model. This is the Electra 8 series. So Electra is the line for women. Otherwise, the difference between the two, women's snowshoes have more of a tapered tail to allow a little more clearance, so they don't bang together when you're walking along. That tends to work for a lot of women. Also, the binding fits a smaller range of shoes. Otherwise, though, as far as construction and features, they're the same. So let's just take a look at this one since they both share these technologies. As far as traction, you know, not super aggressive. If you look at some of the other categories, you'll notice a lot more crampons on the base, but this is just enough for that mellow terrain that I was talking about. It's a nice lightweight shoe. It's an aluminum frame. The binding, it's a pretty simple binding. Basically, you've got this nylon webbing strap here that runs through these buckles. You kind of, to put it on, you loosen the tension a little bit, move the heel strap out of the way, and you slide your foot in there, and then you just pull on that loop. And you can pull on either side of the strap, and it's going to tighten the front of the back of the binding nice and snug, nice and comfortable against your boot. And then you can just attach the heel strap here as well. One feature I'll point out about Atlas snowshoes, they have spring-loaded binding systems. The bindings are attached to this material that allows the binding to really float, and it can, if you do end up on some uneven terrain, the binding is allowed to articulate to give you sort of the best footing. So that's a really nice feature of Atlas. This shoe has another feature that typically with the spring-loaded binding, so you might have heard that it tends to flip snow on the tail, on the back of your coat. So Atlas added this new pivot feature so that it doesn't do that. So you get the benefit of that spring-loaded system with the advantage of a free pivot binding so that the snow just sheds off the tail. So that's a pretty cool feature. Really nice snowshoe. This is again the 8 series Electra for women and the 8 series men. Now they all come in various sizes based on your weight. So you know, considering obviously if you're heavier, you're going to need a larger shoe for better flotation in deep snow. But if you spend most of your time on packed snow, then you can go with a smaller frame, a little easier to walk around in. This is the 830 30-inch snowshoe for men, by the way, and this is a 27-inch for women. So there they are, the two Atlas models. Really nice shoes. Atlas is a great company. You also might have heard of Tubbs. Obviously, Tubbs used to be made here in Vermont, unfortunately not any longer, but we still carry their shoes. They're still high-quality shoes. This is the Explore model, and this is the Explore for women. Tubbs uses a rotating toe cord, fully rotational toe cord in this model. So when you take a step, the shoe just sort of pivots, snow will shed off the back. Aluminum frame, little flared up tail here. This is actually designed so that when you're walking on packed snow, as you take a step, the shoe is more likely to roll down into place rather than sort of striking the snow as a regular shoe with a standard frame would do. So a little more comfortable for walking. This model, you know, again, because it's in the sort of beginner category, not a ton of traction, but just enough to give you traction on moderate terrain. And the binding actually is attached to these bands, so it does have some articulation, so it can roll a little bit side to side if you do end up on a traverse or sort of an off-camber slope. And the binding is pretty simple, called a quick pull, nothing too fancy. Open it up, there's a little buckle here to release the strap to get it nice and large so your foot will slide right in. Once you've got your foot in there, you just pull on that strap. to tighten nice and comfortably, and there's a little tab here to keep the slack out of the way. And then you've got a heel strap. So, you know, pretty simple, not a ton of support in this binding, but again, this shoe is not designed for aggressive terrain, so that shouldn't be an issue. Once again, there it is, the Explorer from Tubbs and the Explorer for women. And then we go over here to the Flex Escape from Tubbs. This is a molded shoe, so instead of an aluminum frame with decking material, now you have a plastic molded shoe. Why they do that is to give the shoe all sorts of flex, side to side for uneven terrain, but also in the tail there's a whole lot of flex incorporated. This is a shoe really designed for packed snow primarily. It's not going to provide a lot of flotation because there's only one size. For heavier people, it will provide decent flotation for people within a certain weight range, but it's not really made for deep snow, so flotation shouldn't be a problem. What you are looking for is lots of traction for, say, icier snow conditions, and comfort. When you're on packed snow, it's not as soft, so a rigid frame can actually be, over a long day, can be a little, you can add some fatigue, I guess, to your joints. So the Flex model, when you take a step, the heel comes down and you just sort of roll down into that step, nice and soft. Feels like you're walking on a fresh lawn or something. So it really does cushion your walking experience. Otherwise, just a pretty basic binding called the Quick Flex. You open it up like so, put your foot in, and you just pull like that evenly to cinch it up against your boot, and then you got your heel strap there as well. Not a ton of support. Again, more for mellow terrain where you don't need all that extra support. It's a rotating toe cord, but unlike the Explorer, there is a stop built in, so eventually it's gonna hit a stop, which is a nice feature, I think. You know, you go to step over a log, it lets the snow shed off the back, but it doesn't swing completely from underneath you, so you always got that shoe underneath your foot for when you come back down again. Anyway, that's the Flex Escape, and here is the women's version. Just mainly the difference, a little more tapered in the tail, slightly smaller binding to accommodate a smaller range of boots. So, a few models to consider in the basic beginner category. You know, consider where you're going to be snowshoeing. If you're going to be mainly on packed snow, mainly on pretty mellow terrain, then these are perfectly suitable for that. You could always go with a shoe in another category for more aggressive terrain, and what you're going to get is certainly more traction, but also more support in the bindings, a little bit more, probably a lighter weight shoe, so you can consider that as well. Anyway, hopefully this helps break down some of the options. Thanks for watching. I am Ryan from ORS Snowshoes Direct.